Hello. It's winter. You might know me better as Magenta if I know you from work. I've been posting a lot, and I just kind of wanted to go over with dancers, and if you're just curious, I guess, about why I'm ranting about certain things, feel free to tune in. So, I am starting a class action lawsuit against Dejavu owned clubs. That said, I've been advertising heavily that I am trying to include other dancers. And so, for all you other dancers, I know this is a very confusing thing. So, I want to try and go over what's been happening and why this is happening, and hopefully give you some information that might help you decide what it is you want to do, if anything, when it comes to this matter. So, essentially, I guess the easiest way to say it is we're going to go over misclassification. So, Dejavu is continuing to misclassify employees as an independent contractor. And so, there's a lot of information about independent contractors, and I'm going to do my best to keep this brief. So, they were sued, well, they've been sued numerous times over this, and they have lost every time and been found to be misclassifying. Misclassification is something that happens all the time because independent contractors are everywhere, and it's just a very gray area, if you will, as far as hiring an independent contractor versus an employee. And there's actually a handbook and all these different tests, because even if you're a business owner and you go to hire one, it can be very convoluted and difficult to discover or decide like which one you've hired, whether you're actually supervising them or requiring of their work something that would actually make them an employee. And so to get down to that is the law, basically, our federal and state laws, labor laws that is, have decided that if you work, you have to get paid. And it has very clear definitions of what work is and what it is to work. Meaning, like, if you're overly supervised, if you have a direct manager. So the work of an independent contractor might be the same work an employee does, like the same job, but one's an independent contractor and one's an employee because one is its own boss, and the other person, even though they both dug the same ditch for the same money, the other one had a manager who was telling him how to do it. Or the other one had to wear a shirt and it had a logo on it. Like, there's a lot of specific things you can, as an employer, require of your independent contractor that then would negate them being an independent contractor, because you're taking away their rights and it defaults them to an employee status. So lots of lawsuits happen where someone was, filing taxes as an independent contractor. They believed they were an independent contractor. They told people they ran their business, but then they found out in this one instance, or like with their employer, that they'd actually been doing work that is recognized by federal labor law as being work, meaning that they had to be paid for it. If they have to be paid for it, they're not an independent contractor, that they are an employee. And so independent contractors, like if you wanted to have a jacuzzi deck built, or someone come do your landscaping, chances are you're hiring an independent contractor, and you don't sit there and tell them how to do their job. They do their job and you pay them, and that is the agreement. And so there can be specific things like, I want it to be robin's egg blue and 6x5, but you can't sit there and tell them, I want you to do this one, then that one, and wipe your feet here. Like, they do their job and they get the money, they meet the agreements, there's that. So there's a lot of rights. That's why people want to be an independent contractor. You're your own boss. Nobody tells you anything. If you want to show up for 5 minutes, work, go eat lunch for 4 hours, and then come back and work till midnight, you can do that if the job's done when you said it would be done. Like, it is all up to you because you're your own boss. And so the other thing that can happen is booth renters. So tattoo artists or hair salon people, you would rent a booth somewhere. So you don't have to like offer their deals. Like if you work at a hair shop and they're offering like $50 haircuts or $50 foils or whatever, you can fully represent your own pricing. You don't have to do whatever they're doing. And that would make you an independent contractor. If you were honoring their deals, then you would not be. You would be an employee. And so Washington State requires that if you are, like, let's say, going to say, hey, we do $50 haircuts or $50 foils, or 24/7 live stage shows. In this instance, Washington State doesn't care how correctly you treat your employees. The fact is, if you don't have at least 30% paid employees to actually do your deal, like dance on stage continually or offer $50 haircuts, then your 60%, like if you have it correctly, it's 60% independent contractors can be dancing on stage or doing haircuts. And then you have the 30% that, is always going to be there to make sure that if no independent contractor wants to be doing stages, notice wants to be, then they're going to be filling that gap to maintain their advertised stage show. If none of these girls want to do $50 haircuts, then, your employees, the 30% of employees, are there to make sure that they're fulfilling the advertised business of the haircuts. So, hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what that would be. That said, why you would rent a booth, and especially in our industry, is you don't want to own your own club, have your own licensing, pay your own staff, do all this stuff, clean your own stage, and so you can work. No, as an independent contractor in this, you're going to rent a space at this job, and what you're paying for is a clean, safe workplace. And so as an independent contractor, like, you can sue at work if you get hurt, if it's because their space was unsafe. Like, if their pole was faulty and they didn't maintain it, or they had liquid all over the floor and it wasn't marked and you fell, or there wasn't enough lighting, like, if there's a safety issue or hazard, then yeah, they can be sued. Otherwise, if you hurt yourself at work because you wanted to try some move on the pole, or, you were hurt already and you were like, I can do it, and then you really hurt yourself, that's why you have business insurance. That's why you're in charge of the work you do or don't do, because you're liable. But again, they would be liable if they were not providing you with a safe workplace and then you hurt yourself as a result of that. So, anyway, independent contractors have a lot of rights, and in our industry, essentially what you would be doing is you would be renting so that you have staff and you have security and a clean space to work and a great environment, essentially. However, we've basically been tricked into paying so that we have the ability to perform unregulated and unpaid work. And so, which is just getting into the misclassification. And we have one of the best attorneys in the country. And it's really amazing that we got him. I've worked twice with someone named Julie, and she's been absolutely amazing. I moved out when I was 15. I'll tell you, I've worked at 2 different jobs where it was just, I couldn't in good conscience leave it this way, and I did suffer some really great losses. But one, which I didn't have to sign an NDA for, I'll give you an example of. I was the 4th girl in 3 years. When it happened to me, I was being sexually harassed by a member, like a regional manager, and an employee. And so their solution for me to get me away, like, they would help me deal with that, but I had to sleep with the head of HR. It was a really messed up thing. I can't even explain it. But the long and the short of it is, they would just, once they do this to a girl and got what they wanted, they'd just, fire them, and then fire the entire staff and turn it over and just pick a new girl and do it all over. So I was the 4th girl in 3 years who was, forced to sleep with, members of management in order to avoid other abuse going on that I legally, as an employee, am protected from. And I also wasn't getting, a bunch of money that they were paying me, as, usually when they don't run a good business, it kind of shows up everywhere. So, I've had 2 other instances in which I worked with someone named Julie, and I won both of them, because once you start getting help, you realize it's really not that hard to get help. And all these instances where you tell someone, this is what's happening, and they're like, dude, that's not right. Pretty much if that's going on, you can probably win a lawsuit and get help for yourself. And so help is out there, and I know that a lot of us haven't had positive experiences in that, but I've had 2 instances, so I just want to assure you that this is a very dramatic instance of abuse of this situation and misclassification. And my attorney that I won those 2 cases with was $250 an hour. And the attorney we have now, who is one of the best in the country, is $900 an hour. And so I can put you in contact with him, and the contact for a phone call, email, whatever, it'll be free. So I'm signing up with this class action. Me and a few other girls are heading this up. We'll be the figureheads, meaning our faces, our names are going to be used to propel this forward. We're going to be showing up in court. And that's another thing I did want to go over, how easy it is to participate. You will seriously show up in Seattle with all of us who are going to participate and sign saying that, you want to participate, you were wronged, and you want this guy to represent you. After that, you're going to get an email to set up a time for an appointment. He'll call you, spend probably an hour on the phone with you, if that, go over your work experience and details, and he'll send you a, written affidavit thing that you're just going to sign, and it just literally is what you told him. He's going to write it out, and then you're going to read it, and then if that's what you said happened and he got it right, then you're going to sign it and say, yeah, this is the true story of me at work and what happened. And then that's it. You're going to be able to wait for maybe 3 years with updates, because Dejavu can't win, but they can delay this. Court is that way. You can delay. So they can delay this up to 3 years. So don't expect anything before, because we're very well expecting them to push it out as far as they can. They cannot win, but they can't do anything more than delay. And with that, I realized I forgot to do a disclaimer. So right now, along with at the bottom of the video, I want to say I am an ex-dancer. I am not a lawyer. I do not have a I do not have a law degree. I don't have a law degree. And this is not legal advice. That was the other thing I had to say. Sorry, my attorney told me what to say. So I am an ex-dancer. I do not have a law degree. This is not legal advice. This is information I put together. This is me talking from the personal 2 experiences I have suing companies and winning, which I did settling outside of court because it's easier, and I was never after a lot of money, just making sure that they were signing things that said that they were not going to do this anymore to people. And so, anyway, it is not legal advice, but like I was saying, we're in a really good position. We have an attorney that's $900 an hour. You're going to sit, you're going to wait, and in 3 years you'll get your money. The reason why a lot of us need to participate in this is because there's what we get for participating, and then there's every other employee in the other, 47 states that have Dejavu clubs in them. All those girls who are not joining us still have the same damages we do. They've still been going through the same experiences, not getting paid, paying $200. We're not the only ones. So, that said, there is special money that is just for those girls, and they all get to split. Last time in the last lawsuit, they only got $500,000. 28,000 girls were eligible to split $500,000. And there was an estimated $141 million in damages between those girls, the 28,000. But they only got $500,000 to split. So, part of that settlement, those girls got $5 million, $1 million, and then the girls got $500,000, all the dancers. And that was the slap on the wrist Dejavu got when they make $161 million a year, mostly illegally off their dancers. It just goes to show that it's not much of an incentive. So right now, we want to use as many girls as possible. We're looking at multi-million-dollar recoveries for individual girls participating. And like I said, to protect your identity, you don't have to go to court. You don't have to do anything. You're just going to do a phone interview after showing up one time in person to just an office to sign something. And then, yeah. You're just going to wait 3 years, and, you might get a phone call or 2 or some updates, but that's it. And then you'll get your money, and the attorney takes a third from everybody. So you'll just get your portion, which is expected to be in the millions. And then because of your participation, it's going to drive, because all of us are proving that this is happening to all of us. And once we can substantiate that, in the larger degree we do substantiate that, we're going to be able to provide the largest pool of damages for those girls who weren't able to participate with us, but still deserve all their rent back, all their wages and everything. So we want to make sure that we do that. The other really exciting side to this is, if you have heard anything about arbitration contracts, don't worry about them. You just join us. Don't even fret about those little bad boys. They are not a concern. Which I don't think anybody on their side is taking that seriously right now. But I assure you, just come talk to me and my $900 lawyer, and we can let you know what's going on and why that's happening. And just don't worry about those little arbitration contracts. Though I do encourage you, ladies, to go and find your contracts and read them. You might notice they're not the contracts you read, even though they have your signature on them somehow. But yes, go ahead, read your contracts, and don't fret about the arbitrations. But we're moving forward with this over the misclassifications, and it's going to be really easy to participate. And the more of us that work together, the more we can help the other people. And the arbitration contracts had kept 30 dancers in Seattle from suing because they believed they were ineligible over the arbitration contracts. Because those are nasty things. I don't know. Google arbitration contracts first off and learn about what they are, why they would want them from us, and what nasty little things they are. A lot of states are actually appealing them, making it so that you can't do them because it's just a horrible thing that people do to avoid getting in trouble when they know they're guilty. And so anyway, but there are circumstances in which those can go out the window and not be at all considered. And so we're all covered under those, so don't worry about them. Like I said, just come on in and we'll figure it out. And the good news, like I said, the 30 dancers in Seattle, thinking they couldn't sue, have started working with lawmakers in the last couple years, and they've actually gotten bills passed, dancer safety laws and everything. And they have, if you haven't done the dancer testimonial that I sent out, please do. Even if you've had a positive work experience, go ahead and put that. You can reflect that, whatever it was. I've definitely seen some girls who are like golden girls there, and you could do no wrong. And it's like, dude, that was a sweet gig. So if you want to say positively what your experience was, go for it. But take the survey at the end. The survey, well, the stories and the survey, it's all being reviewed by lawmakers. So this is our chance to make a difference, because what good is it to hit Dejavu with a big incentive, aka the lawsuit, a big monetary incentive to follow the law if the laws don't help us? But right now we have girls advocating for us and lawmakers advocating for us and actually doing their best to try and make laws that are going to help make it a safer place and a more profitable place for us to work. And so believe it or not, lawmakers have no idea what it is to be a dancer / a stripper, and they don't know what actually makes us safe, and a lot of the things they think sound good and like, good, this will protect our stripper, it actually shoots us in the foot and doesn't, and leaves us like more vulnerable than before. So instead of bitching about our laws and things, this is our opportunity. Like, they're actually trying to hear from us to find out, like, should we serve alcohol in Washington State with us being fully nude? They don't let us serve alcohol because they believe it's keeping us safer. But what they're wanting to hear now is, are we actually putting ourselves at more of a risk and doing things we wouldn't normally do because it's so much harder to sell without alcohol? And so are we actually doing us a disservice and putting us in a more vulnerable position trying to make money without alcohol? Which, how many of us have had these conversations about it? You know, we all want to be safe, but at the same time, like, we feel like we'd be in a better situation if we didn't have these stage distances or customer distances. And like, there's all these different aspects where we have opinions, and if anybody who made laws would listen to us, we'd have a better industry. So that is what we need to do. Fill out the survey, because they're actually looking at lifting the alcohol ban and lifting like stage distance regulations and a bunch of other stuff, and they're trying to even look at lifting like zoning regulations so it's easier for clubs to open. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening right now. So if we can hit them with a large lawsuit, that's going to take a lot of money, and it, you know, that's what gives them an incentive to not do this again. And as you've seen before, when it's just a little bit of money coming from a company that makes so much money, it's not much of an incentive. However, they are looking at $1,000 per dancer per day that they are misclassified, and we know there's at least 28,000 of us. And that's since February 2017. And it's also 1 year in prison per dancer per day misclassified, because there's our side of how we've been wronged. But another reason this is going to be taken seriously is the government really gets mad if you don't pay their taxes and don't pay them their money. And so I know we've been doing what's correct and like independent contractor taxes, which has kept up this facade, but Dejavu hasn't been paying their taxes on their employees, and it's a different type of tax, and it's a different amount of taxes the government gets, whether you're paying them for employees or for yourself as an independent contractor. So another reason it'll be taken very seriously is the government wants their money, and they're looking at millions in fines. I think hundreds of millions if I did the math on it, in fines for all of us dancers for this amount of time. So there are a lot of reasons why this is going to go very well. We have a famous attorney, and he has represented all sorts of people. He, just read his page. I've provided links everywhere, and I've sent links, and if you need his link to his page, you can. But you can read about him. He represents Fortune 500 companies, actresses, actors, athletes, musicians. He's the best. He is the best. He is incredible. He's got one of the longest trial experience times currently of all of them. Like, there's I forget what the top freaking attorney is in in the country right now, but one of the top attorneys like offered him a huge thing because he had so much more experience in court, like trial time, than their best people. And so that's what we're looking at. He has like I think 33 or 35 years, in court experience, and as an attorney, that's like gold. So, anyway, again, I can't offer legal advice, but I can assure you that Dejavu can't win this case and that they can only delay it. And that if you've been working at any Dejavu owned club and you have been fulfilling your contract as an independent contractor, I guarantee you that to fulfill your contract means that you have been performing work as an employee, or at least that's how the federal and state labor laws view the work you've had to do. And I know that's a new concept for a lot of us because we believed we're independent contractors, but if you've had to do stages, if you've had to do house deals and accept ladies' drinks and go to locker room meetings and unpaid meetings, and you can't wear the sweater you want or can't leave for under 6 hours or any of that stuff. Like, there's so many things are very, very wrong with it. But to put it in a nutshell, if you fulfilled your contract, you're eligible to join us, which means you're eligible to get all your wages paid, your pay stubs, damages for everything, as well as all the rent you paid back. And again, girls that participate are looking at millions of dollars individually as far as a recovery because of the damages. And it's such a vague term, and without experience, it kind of sounds weird, but anything you suffered, like the contracts Dejavu has, does not necessitate that we have to be naked, yet they threaten our job if we don't take off our underwear. So that's a damage. And if you've had, did you lose a relationship? Have you had extra fights with your boyfriend? Have you felt guilty or had issues or anything? Do you have PTSD? Like, what's going on with you? And so many of the things can be traced back to the things that we're forced to do, and those are damages. And so and a lot of the girls that I've heard talk about sexual assault and are telling me they got a $20 credit or whatever, and I've heard better situations, so not to say that it's always handled that way, but I will say that a lot of the times girls are being raped and they think it's a sexual assault. So look up the Washington state definition of rape, because if things are inserted into you like a finger, that's a rape. That's not sexual assault. And so, yeah. And if your genitals are licked or touched, without your consent, look at the law. Look up your rights, independent contractor rights, employee rights. And if there is anything that you experienced during your time working at Dejavu and you're wondering about what would happen, just know and look up employee rights. You were protected under them. So hostile work environment, discrimination of an injury, not getting breaks or meal times, not getting the accommodation if you had some kind of health issue. There's a million different things, and I'm trying not to rant, but the whole purpose of this, again, is I enjoyed working in this industry, and there's a lot of potential in here, and I love pole dancing. And when I started, I thought pole, like stripping, and was like, if you're broke and you want to become a pole dancer, and that's literally a national sport now, an Olympic sport, and if you've seen it all, and I'm posting them all on my little Twitter feed if you haven't seen it, just all the pole dancing, Australia leads the way, but they're the most phenomenal things in the entire world, watching people compete and do pole. Pole is fucking amazing. And so, sorry about my language. And so I kind of thought, like, if you were broke and you didn't, like, start out with, like, the mom and the dad who pay for you to go to school and you can, like, pay for lessons and all this stuff. And if you're broke, you start out as a stripper, you build up your world, you get better, and eventually you can start competing, and, you could end up as, like, one of these girls competing in Australia or, here nationally in pole. And then I found out it's actually just this big scam, and we're being, like, taken advantage of horribly. So, it's not what I thought it was, but the point is, this industry should be a stepping stone to better things and a more artistic thing, and let women do things on the pole that aren't necessarily over-sexualized. Like, if you want to pay to work as an artist and you want to go up there and be a pretty fairy and do pretty fairy moves, and you don't want to take off your panties, and you want to sell the lap dances afterwards that way, like, you should have that. You should have that ability. You shouldn't have to do all these other things to meet their requirements, since they don't pay you. to do your job. So I would love to see what this industry becomes when girls are encouraged to take care of their bodies, take care of themselves, work within the freedoms as independent contractors, and actually, be supported in this industry and see what art comes out of it. Because if you start watching pole dancing, women are the most strong, beautiful, powerful, graceful creatures you've ever seen, and pole is just one of the most entrancing art forms. And it's so limited by the club and the control that they have over us and what we're doing. And like, I for one thought I was gonna get to go be a pretty fairy princess and dance the pole, and I like a lot of different things, so I was excited about all different types of this. But I was definitely thinking I was gonna be an artist, and it was gonna be this fun journey, and I was gonna conquer the pole. And yeah, just very quickly learned that that is not what this industry is. But right now we're at a great point in that we can create the industry we want. We've got the placement of a voice in law where they're actually going to be changing laws and making them. So if we can keep giving feedback to those people, we can actually create the laws so that when Dejavu is forced to follow the laws, they actually start doing things that benefit us and make a wonderful place that we actually want to work and can see the industry change in the ways that we want to. And so everything has really come together all at once, and I'm very excited. I know there's been a lot of, probably for individuals, negative legal experience or no legal experience, and if you've had any situations with like the cops over some kind of like getting hurt at work or whatever, you probably weren't treated very well. And like, I don't know, I found that, yeah, people find out you're a dancer and all of a sudden it's like your feelings towards things don't matter, or like you don't care about your body, or like, anyone can treat you how you want because you're a dancer. It's like, no, I have rights. I'm a human being, and just because I do sex work doesn't give me any different rights than anybody else working at Target or Starbucks or anywhere. So that said, we have a $900 an hour attorney, one of the best in the country, who's taking us contingent, meaning if he were to spend 3 years on this and lose, he doesn't get a cent. No money. And lawyers don't work for free, especially $900 an hour lawyers.